Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
Alright, so it's finally happened, guys. We have finally gotten closure on this long, pathetic saga that has been the final months of Jon Jones' career, because according to Dana White himself, Jones has officially retired from the sport. If there was any doubt from anybody out there on whether or not Jon has been ducking Tom Aspinall for the last year and a half now, then I have some good news for you. You don't have to have any doubts anymore. And as you heard from the clip that I just showed you, Tom is now the undisputed heavyweight champion, which is nice that it's now official, but I think that most of us can agree that we considered him the real champ for a while. It's crazy to think that the same guy that I grew up watching, who took on every legend that light heavyweight had to offer and tore them apart limb from limb, has chosen to end his career by running away like this. I've seen people who are still somehow Jon Jones fans in 2025 defend him by saying things like he can fight whoever he wants to and he can retire whenever he wants to just like anybody else, which is true, but they're also conveniently ignoring the fact that Jon wasted literally everybody's time by playing all these games for the last few months. After Jon beat Stipe back in November, he said that he would keep on fighting as long as the UFC would meet his demands. Well, it seems like the UFC in fact was willing to meet his demands, because rumors began to circulate that he wanted $30 million to fight Aspinall, which would be far and away the biggest contractual payout that the company would have ever done, and Dana agreed to that number. But it's apparent that Jon didn't expect them to say yes to that, because ever since then, Jones has been trying to delay and distract from fighting Aspinall by any means necessary. But it's like, if Jon never had any intention on fighting Tom, then why even demand the $30 million and increased pay-per-view points in the first place? Oh, I know why, because this guy is so insecure and self-obsessed that he thought he'd be able to intentionally price himself out of yet another super fight, which is exactly what he did against Francis Ngannou. Fortunately for Jon, he was able to get away with it the first time around because Francis ended up falling out with Dana. This guy has ducked the two biggest challenges that he's had at heavyweight since moving up to the division, and maybe he was holding out for some sort of miracle that Tom would also get into a feud with Dana so that he could hold on to his belt and fight lesser competition, but lightning doesn't strike twice. Also, somewhere within the last month, Jon literally agreed to fight Tom and then clearly backed out of the fight days later.
What's that?
Like, in your gut, do you think that fight will ultimately end up happening?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it since the beginning, and Jon Jones agreed to do the fight. So Jon Jones was offered the deal and accepted the deal.
But honestly, is anyone even surprised that this happened? This is the same guy that's walked out of interviews multiple times because he was afraid of even having to talk about Tom. He walked out of an interview with the Mac Life before it even started just because he heard their English accents, and then just this past week, he walked out of the Full Send podcast the moment Aspinall's name was brought up.
What would it take to fight Tom Aspinall from the UFC? Like, what does the UFC got to do?
Said something real wild on off the cuff. I'll see you guys later.
That's it.
Yeah,
right.
Thanks for the happy
Jon
beer.
Jones, the legend.
You know, it's crazy to me how someone like Jon, who's won so many fights, won so many belts, and won so many records in the UFC, can at the very same time be this much of a loser. The same guy who's constantly bragging about how much money he has to his haters is running away from one of, if not the biggest paydays in UFC history just to protect his legacy. But the ironic thing is, and I can only speak for myself when I say this next part, but in my opinion, even if Jon got knocked out cold by Tom in the very first round, I don't think that that would all of a sudden undo the previous 15 years of dominance and him being at the top of the sport. But him pulling all of this nonsense in order to try and weasel out of fighting Tom does so much more damage to his legacy than it does him losing a fight fair and square to a guy that's bigger and younger than him. And now that I think about it, seeing as Jon willingly retired, he can simply say that he vacated the belt as opposed to being stripped. This guy in his ego probably couldn't handle the idea of his haters getting their satisfaction, so he called up Dana to confirm his retirement to make it seem like he's letting the belt go. I'm sure it's just semantics to some people, and honestly, it kinda is to me too, but I promise you that in the weeks, months, and years to come, Jon's going to say that he vacated the belt and that he was never stripped. But you know what? This all could have been avoided if it weren't for Dana allowing this to happen. In Jon's defense, he's been saying that he's already told the UFC that he retired, and if this is true, then this entire fiasco is on Dana. Look, I can understand that from Dana's perspective, the idea of setting up this fight was worth letting Jon run wild a little bit. Jon clearly cherry-picked his fight with Stipe, and he probably promised Dana that he'll fight Tom afterwards, so Dana played along thinking Jon was negotiating in good faith. Then Jon tells the world that he's going to keep on fighting after he beats Stipe, and Dana probably thought, perfect, this is all going as planned. But the moment that Jon said no to fighting Tom after Dana agreed to pony up the 30 mil should have been when serious discussions about stripping Jon should have started happening, and that was way back in January. Or how about when Jon flew off to Thailand in the middle of negotiations to film a reality TV show for several weeks? And if Jon agreeing to fight Tom and then almost immediately turning around to start tweeting about about vacating the belt wasn't enough for Dana to see the light, then this guy is just clueless. Dana really let this guy make a mockery of the heavyweight division, the heavyweight title, and the UFC as a whole because this guy put his trust in one of the scummiest human beings to ever fight in the promotion. This guy really should have learned his lesson after Jon pulled the same exact bullshit during the Francis Ngannou negotiations, but he didn't, and thus he enabled Jones to give him the runaround. You would think that a guy who's been a fight promoter for damn near 25 years would be a little bit less naive than this, but I guess not. Looking back at it, I feel like it's pretty obvious that Jon was leveraging his status as heavyweight champ in order to get his new entrepreneurial ventures off the ground, which admittedly is a good business move, but in the process of doing that, he completely tanked whatever goodwill that he had left with those who made him rich and famous in the first place. This guy seriously earned all of his wealth and notoriety off the sport of MMA, and yet he gives the sport a massive middle finger on his way out. It feels like a slap in the face. When it's all said and done, this is not a retirement, it's an escape. Jon Jones walked away from the sport after ducking Tom Aspinall for 18 months, killing the momentum of an entire division and wasting everybody's time in the process. And he was allowed to do it because Dana White has become a walking corpse of a CEO who only cares about power slap nowadays. Jon Jones is not the GOAT. He is an incredibly talented fighter, sure, but he's also the biggest duck the UFC has ever seen, and he will never be on my GOAT list. I will end this video on a positive note though. I am really glad that we can finally move on from this so that we can get the heavyweight division moving again. No more drama, no more holdups, no more bullshit. Aspinall should have been promoted to being the undisputed champion back in February at the very latest, and although it sucks that this much time was wasted on a diva who never really wanted to fight, I'm happy that this nonsense is finally over. Congrats to Tom Aspinall and fuck Jon Jones. Anyways, that's the video for today. Definitely let me know what you think about Jon Jones's retirement. Do you wish him the best in retirement, and who should be Tom Aspinall's first title defense? As always, if you like the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Can we even like recognize this? Is this like the fact that he has no interest of fighting? We should stop this right here. Like this count should stop. I think in order for this to be legitimate, you at least got to fight every 200 days, right? I feel like it's good. Like you're fighting once a year. Am I wrong here, guys? I just find it mind-blowing that he's been a champion this long, 838 days. That's more than that's like more than 2 fucking years. It's just mind-blowing. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's crazy.